Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man. This is a exciting video because this is how to get an entire Hifi system for $300-ish. If you're trying to get into this hobby, and it's really not a hobby, really, it's about music. And in one way or another, everyone loves music. Look around. Look at the kids walking around with their earbuds and the AirPod things. Think about a movie that you love, and then try to consider how much you would have enjoyed that movie if there was no music in it. Think about a television show. There's music everywhere. There's always music. There's music. I don't know of anybody that's like, oh, I hate music, it's horrible. No, it doesn't exist. Think about when you went to high school, or if you're in high school, think about the music that you like. Because the music that you like when you grow up in your formative years leaves an imprint on you for the rest of your life. For me, it was 90s music, grunge, metal, Dave Matthews, Blues Traveler, Metallica, AC/DC, Anthrax, INXS, Depeche Mode, Korn. Oh, love Korn. Slipknot. It's everywhere. It's every car ride you've driven on with your buddies. Now, the difference between, so let's take that into consideration. Let's just take and accept the fact that everybody loves music. Some people, like myself, were completely blown away when I saw a speaker. I wanted it. I was blown away when I saw the Sony Walkman for the first time. I wanted it. So for me, it's a little bit different. I got my first CD player, I think in the 5th grade, in the late 80s. And I put together a little system, a little component system. I bought a used receiver, used Kenwood tower speakers with a passive radiator, and I even know what a passive radiator was. But the point is, I love music. I listened to INXS, Def Leppard. Don't really care for Def Leppard anymore, but I listened to them back then. Poison. I would spend hours listening to music. And before that, I would spend hours listening to, I don't know what size of record they are, the little 45s or something like that on a plastic record player. The point is, I think music is a bigger part of everyone's lives than they like to admit. So what changes? Well, for me, what changed is when, as soon as I heard music through a decent system, and it wasn't over the radio, over a boombox, I heard things I'd never heard before. I think the longer and further you go into this hobby and into this journey of audiophile enjoyment or audio enjoyment, I don't like the term audiophile. I think the further you go into this thing, it's about rediscovering the music that you grew up on and that you grew to love. And you don't have to be a wealthy dentist or wealthy at all to start to enjoy your music on an entirely different level, on a deeper level than you have currently enjoyed it. So, for $300, I think you can get a system that is very, very respectable. Where would I spend that $300 at, or $300-ish at? Well, first and foremost, I think the anchor to any system is the speakers. Dollar for dollar, they're going to make the most impact, I believe, on the sound quality. They're going to provide you with things that you may have never heard before. And not just from the music, I'm talking about soundstage. How wide does the music feel? Does it extend beyond the speakers? I'm talking about imaging and placement. Where something sounds like it's coming from. And I will tell you, these speakers right here made me turn my head so many times because I thought someone was in the house. At one point, there's a Dave Matthews track called Drive In, Drive Out. And there, at the beginning of the song, there's a little guitar. And I was doing something in the office, and I would have bet any amount of money that that sound was coming from the middle of my desk. And my speakers were, well, really where the UB5s are right now. And it was these speakers. I was like, what? What is that? I had to listen to it like multiple times because these speakers, to me, imaged better than anything I'd ever heard up to this point. And I've spent more money on speakers previous to these. And what are these? These are the Elac Reference Debut 6. The first generation. There is a second generation out there. However, these are still available. These are still available on Amazon for $230. I actually bought these specific ones from Elac's US outlet website for like $130. That's insane. So, anchor your system with your speakers. My opinion. These are fantastic speakers. They're not bright. They're not like a Polk or a lower level Clips. And oftentimes, to me, that's what I attributed value to. Is the bass, does the bass thump and do the highs sparkle? I'm not saying these do thump very, very well. And I'm not saying they don't sparkle, but they do things that other speakers have never done for me. I can't possibly say enough. I still use these. They're in my living room. They're in a very large living room, and they have no issue filling up the space. They're great. Actually, I think I'm going to bring them back in here just to kind of fall back in love with them again. So speakers are great, but you're going to need something to hook them up to. Well, if you're spending $230 on speakers, it doesn't leave you a lot to buy an amplifier or an integrated amp or a receiver to drive them. However, there's this little guy that exists. This is the Fozzy Audio, 100 watt per channel, and I say that kind of laughingly because I don't think it's 100 watts. And if it is 100 watts, it's probably throwing like 10% distortion, which is bad. You don't want distortion. So what does it have? It has tone controls, and it has Bluetooth. So technically, you could buy these for $230, this for, I think, $65. I think it's on sale on Amazon right now. And you could have a system. You hook it up to your phone. This does have the aptX Bluetooth codec, which I discussed in my previous video about the Topping B C3, which is a great little Bluetooth receiver. So for $300, you're done. You're enjoying your music. Now it's all digital. It's all the stuff that's on your phone. But if you have a CD player laying around, and you probably don't, you might have a Blu-ray player laying around, or you might have a DVD player laying around. You can go to Best Buy and literally buy a brand new DVD player for like $15, $20. And then you can play CDs on it. I like CDs. I grew up with CDs. I've been buying as many CDs as I can on eBay because people don't get it. Like, vinyl made a resurgence. I think there's going to be a CD renaissance. CD renaissance. It's hard to say. You can get an album for like $2 a piece. Now, they're not always getting the greatest shape, but they do play. They play just fine. So, $230 for the speakers, $65, $70 for this. Go on Facebook Marketplace. Find a old DVD player for $20, $10. Some people throw them away. Get some CDs off of eBay for for $2 a piece. And you're going to be rocking and rolling. No pun intended. Now, this will get you started. This also has one RCA connection. So if you have multiple sources, you're going to have to pull them out and put them back in, which is fine. You can do that. However, what I'd actually recommend, if you can afford it, there is currently on Amazon, there is a 2-channel receiver. It's a Sony STR DH190. It's $100, marked down from $150. It has Bluetooth. It has a phono input amp. It is supposedly 100 watts into 2. It's 6 ohm stable, and that's important because these speakers are 6 ohm. This guy is stable down to 4 ohms. This is a Class D. The receiver is going to be Class AB, probably. Class D runs more efficient, lower heat levels, things like that. This has tone controls, bass. So if you get these, it's not quite bright enough, you turn up the treble or you turn down the treble. And in my experience, these are actually pretty good little tone controls. I drove the UB5s off this very well. It also has a radio if you're into that, but there's no DAC. What is a DAC for? DAC is to take digital and convert it into analog. So if you're running your computer, you need a DAC. However, I believe there are some very low cost, like in the $10, $12 range, of USB or optical to analog converters. Now, is it going to be the greatest sounding DAC? Absolutely not. But it will make music. So if you can stretch your budget another $30, I would go with the Sony. I would go with the Sony. I would go with these. And then I would go look for an old Blu-ray player or DVD player that you may have just lying around the house. Or go find one at Best Buy, open box for 15, 20 bucks. Or go on Facebook Marketplace. Find a CD player. That would bring the total up to $330 before tax. Okay, so another thing. There is the second version of this speaker, which is currently also available, and it's on sale right now, I believe, for $280. So if you can stretch your budget even more. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get a whole lot more out of the second gen. Actually, I like the first gen myself because it's rear ported. You can get, you can influence the bass much more by placement. The new version is front ported. The reason why I think it's front ported is so people can put it up against the wall. So it can be utilized and has more freedom in placement. These get low. I mean low. They're rated at 44, but man, I think I've heard much lower come out of them. I don't run a subwoofer. I do run a subwoofer with them in the living room because it's mainly movies and TV shows out there. In the office, I don't run a sub. I don't run a sub with the UB5s. And I didn't run a sub with these. There is a track, Korn Unplugged CD. It's the last track, and they're playing some taiko drums, and it just rocked my office. It was fun, a lot of fun. So you could potentially go cheaper than this, too. I wouldn't cheap out on the speakers. Don't do it. There's Polks available. There's clips available. I think for this speaker, if you can save up and you can get this speaker, do it, because it's something else. It is just something else. Cheaper options. Go to Facebook Marketplace, find an old receiver. A lot of them are like 30, 40, 50 bucks. You can do the Fozzy Audio, which is this one. There's other Fozzies that don't have Bluetooth, but then you're going to be stuck with just an RCA. So that's probably the lowest that you can go. So $230, $100, maybe $70. So $300 to $330, and you'll be set up. Actually, if you get the receiver, you'll have a lot more options. Where do you step up from here? The great thing about these speakers is they are just as comfortable with a $100 receiver or $50 receiver or $70 Class D little amplifier as they are with a $500 integrated amp or a $400 integrated amp. What I'm saying is you can hold on to these, and I am going to hold on to them forever. I think they're super cool looking. I think they're fun. They're just a great speaker. The first upgrade that I would make to whatever system you put together for $300 or $330 is to buy an external DAC. And the external DAC that I would buy initially is the Topping E30. It's a good little DAC. It's got a good chip in there. But more importantly, it has a remote control. And what that remote control can do for you is to allow you to control your system from the DAC only. So what you would do with that, if you bought this, if you bought the Fazio, Fozzy, I like Fazio better. I should rename it Fazio. Fazio Audio. I think I'm onto something. What you would do is you would run your DAC into this. So you'd run your DAC into the RCAs. You'd still have Bluetooth with this. And then you could hook up your television via optical out. And then this starts to open up a whole host of other opportunities. Because when you have a DAC that accepts optical, USB, coaxial SPDIF, you can take that CD player, or you can find another CD player that has what's called a digital output. And what that does is it bypasses the CD player's internal DAC, which is probably going to be garbage, and then utilizes your external DAC to do the conversion. And it's going to be much better. You probably have one of those lying around if you have a PS3. PS3 has an optical out. PS3 plays DVDs, Blu-rays, and it also plays CDs. You can also run out of your computer into it. That DAC is $130. So if we're at $330, then we're going to be at $460. So that's getting a little bit up there for some people. But that's the upgrade path. I would do this. I would do the 2-channel receiver. That's $330. Save up for the DAC. Get the DAC. Run your computer in there. You can stream Bluetooth. There's some DACs also that have Bluetooth. They're going to cost more money though. It just depends on what's important to you. A lot of you may be saying, I don't have $300. Now, this is purely my opinion, and I try to instill this in my family. I don't have a lot of success with it though. Think about how often you go out to eat. Think about how often you stop and get a soda at the Circle K or 7-Eleven. Think about how many times you go through the drive-thru at McDonald's or sit down at a delicious Mexican restaurant. And then do the math. If you eat out once a week, what does that equate to? Go look at your bank statement. Go look at your debit card. How many times have you eaten out? Because I will tell you, eating out gives you maybe an hour's worth of pleasure. Okay? And what does that hour's worth of pleasure give you? It makes you happy for a little while, and then that investment that you made to make you happy for an hour turns to poop. It does. It does. When you go out to eat, fancy dinner turns to poo. Let me tell you something. You forego going out to eat. You take that money and you buy speakers. That money will not turn into poo. That money will turn into enjoyment for as long as these components last. And to me, that's the best investment you can possibly make into yourself and your enjoyment. My parents had this old Hifi System, and it was 30 or 40 years old, and those speakers still made sound. They had an 8-track player. It still worked. They actually took my old receiver and used my receiver in there when I stepped up to my next receiver. And I think they had a dual cassette player, which actually was mine too. And then they had a CD player, which actually was mine too. My point is that audio stuff lasts a long time. Also, the cool thing about doing separates is when DAC technology gets better or Bluetooth technology gets better, you can just switch out those components. Now, if you have a little bit more money to spend, frankly, I would still stick with these, the Debut, I guess B6s or B6.2s. I would stick with those, and I would look at, there's a BassX A100 by Emotiva. Good little amp. It is only an amp though, so you would need a DAC with that. There's also a BassX TA100. That's $400. The BassX A100 is $230. So you get these, $230, that's $460. Add a DAC for $100, that's $560. It's not going to take care of any analog. The TA100 does have a bunch of analog inputs, and it has digital inputs as well. So you're going to have to just kind of see what's best for you. What is your budget? And I would say your budget's much larger than you think it is if you just don't go out to eat. Don't get sodas. Drink some water. Eat some rice for a month. It'll be good for you. May lose some weight. I don't know. Invest something that's going to bring you happiness for the longest amount of time possible. And I guarantee you, money spent on audio is going to give you your money back in spades for many years to come, if you so choose. If you're like me, though, you just keep buying stuff. But it's a journey, it's a pilgrimage. You can be completely happy with this system right here for years and years and years. So, that's really it. I may do one of these for $500, for $600, for $700. But if you get a little creative, you can put together a nice little system for not a lot of money. And it can bring you an extreme amount of joy. I'll just tell you a little story real quick. When I was young, so I grew up in a really small town, and we had a place where we could buy cassettes and then later on some CDs. It was a pharmacy for some reason. What I would do when I was even younger than that, though, is I would listen to the radio and then record songs off the radio onto a mono tape recorder and then play that back. One time, I can't remember what song came on, but I loved it so much. I had headphones, and I literally put the headphone, one channel of the headphone, up to the tape recorder to record it. It didn't turn out very well. I don't recommend that. But my point is, where there's a will, there's a way. And you can figure it out. If it's important to you, you can do it. I wouldn't go any lower than $230 though. My daughter, I bought her a little pair of Polks. I'll probably review them. They're still available. And they're pretty decent. They're decent for putting sound at you. These put the sound around you. And I think it's kind of the gateway to wanting more out of your music, hearing more out of your music. Can't say enough good things about these. There's also Andrew Jones is the guy that designed these. And he kind of really got famous when he designed some speakers for Pioneer. And they used to be affordable. I don't know if they're still in production, because when I went to search for them, they used to be about $100 a pair, some bookshelves. And I would have recommended those if I could have found them and they were readily available. There's people selling those speakers for almost as much as these now. Excuse me. And these are arguably a better speaker. Even Andrew Jones would say so. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about this. Do yourself a favor. Buy yourself a decent system. Enjoy music that you've enjoyed before, and just hear more of it. Hear it, maybe not quite as it was intended to, but much closer to what it was intended to than you've ever heard it before. I don't think you'll regret your decision at all. So with that, I'm the Cheap Audio Man. I hope you enjoyed that video from my heart. If you have any questions, reach out to me. So have a great day. Maybe another video coming soon.